Hello and welcome to the About This Life show. This is season 2, episode 2. I'm your host, Woody White. Today we're going to be talking about something that has just popped up everywhere, and that's all everybody's talking about, and that is artificial intelligence. This will be the only time you hear me say the words artificial intelligence because everybody just says AI. So on today's show, I'm going to really give you a quick understanding of what it is, what you should be concerned about, and what the overall impact might be. But before I get started, I just wanted to say that when you think about AI, you should think about your job. You should think about your friends' jobs. You should think about what we're doing in this country. And you should think about how far AI could go, especially as I walk you through what I'm going to walk you through today. So, just to get you started, I want you to think about something. AI has been around a long time. It's just different versions of it, and there are pieces of AI, things like rules-based engines, where you develop a lot of rules, and through the connection of all these rules, you get the technology or the device to do something based on what you told it to do. So, if you think about autopilot, for example, with airplanes, even today, the pilot is on the plane. The pilot takes care and pays attention to the liftoff and the landing. But in between, there's a lot of autopilot going on where the pilot is just kind of sitting back and monitoring what's going on, but they're not actually flying the plane 100% all the time. So think about that in terms of autopilot. And now you have to think about the next question. With the advancement of new AI, how far will it go? Will the pilots disappear and will they all lose their jobs? Because the technology is capable of the takeoff and landing. It's even capable with AI of dealing with anything that could happen along the way concerning rough weather or turbulence. That's the question. How far do we go with AI? So I'm going to walk you through this today, and I'm going to teach you some basic things about AI. So if you watch anything on television or you hear anything, after you watch the show today, you'll actually have a much better understanding. Okay. So let's get with the show. So the first thing is, what is AI? As I said, it's an abbreviated name for artificial intelligence. It's an overcatching kind of a catch-all term, AI. But the AI that you're hearing about everywhere, that's really something called generative AI. So in other words, if you look at original artificial intelligence, that's really just a generic term, whereas generative AI is what you see AI being used to do, actually put into application. And Chat GTP is one example of that, if you've heard of Chat GPT. So now I'm going to answer this question. Is generative AI, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, is that a single product? The answer to that is no. It's actually a collection of a lot of things, but people just say AI. So I want to teach you a little something about it so you just feel more comfortable when you hear that, when you're listening to something, you know what it really means. So let me just highlight it with my mouse here. So the artificial intelligence, in terms of its original old school components, was really about whatever it is you taught the computer to do without a human sitting there. The computer couldn't just make up decisions on its own. It could do in an automated way what you taught it to do. And those original components were more or less things like what you see here, machine learning. Machine learning is the use of data and algorithms to imitate how humans learn and improve the learning process for the computer. So whenever you hear machine learning or ML, that's what machine learning's component is. It's responsible for what I just said. The other part of kind of original old school AI was something called computer vision. Now, computer vision would capture and learn from images and audio and video. So you could dump a bunch of that stuff into a computer and it would break it apart in a digital way and learn from it. Okay, so that's what computer vision was. So those two components at a high level was the original AI that kind of started it all, maybe for things like autopilot, things like underwriting engines where you put your information in and the credit card company says you're not approved. Okay, that's original kind of AI. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the new stuff. the stuff, the new generative AI that you are hearing about. Okay. So some of the new components of generative AI, remember what I said, AI is just a high level term. Now, when you think about AI, after you go through this, you'll realize when somebody says AI, it's really all of this stuff on the screen kind of put together and just called AI, plus other stuff that I don't have on the screen because it'd be too much for us to go through it. So when you hear AI, think about it like a cake, right? A chocolate cake. People just say chocolate cake, but all the ingredients that go into chocolate cake, the sugar, the flour, the butter, the dough, nobody talks about that stuff. And that's what I'm doing here for you today. We're not just talking about AI. I'm giving you more about the ingredients, the pieces that make up AI. So the new AI stuff is called, here's one component called generative AI. And generative AI is, again, another catch-all phrase, but what that really means is this new AI is capable of creating new content. So in other words, it's not waiting for a human to give it something. It has access to enough data to create new content. And that's what a lot of artists are kind of concerned about. If you don't understand why people are concerned, especially in the creative space, about AI, remember, AI is smart because it studies a lot of data. That means that it's studying data from books, it's studying data from songs, it's studying data from art. So when you go to something like ChatGPT and you give it a description and it creates a picture, a custom picture for you, you have to think if you're an artist and you see that picture, did it pull from my work? Did it come up with that new idea that this person is asking for because it has access to my work out there and it's using it to create something new? Is that copyright infringement? So that's what all the hoopla is about with the concerns of AI, because AI isn't creating new stuff out of thin air. It's actually creating new stuff based on what it's learned from around the world. Okay. So generative AI, like I said, is another catch-all phrase, but the difference between old school AI is that you had to tell the computer what to do. In this case, with generative AI, it has the capability of creating new content. Okay. So another part of AI, of the many things that it's made of, is pre-training. Pre-training has to do with, like I said, the large data sets that's available out there. So pre-training is all about large data sets. You might also hear it as big data. Okay. Now, there's something else called large language models. Now, large language models is where you're training the computer and it's so smart, it's using normal human language to computer to communicate with you. So you can imagine AI built into a robot that looks like a human and it's talking like a human. So these large language models are part of making it possible for AI to talk to you on the screen and robots to talk as if they're human. Okay, so that's what a large language model helps do. Then there's something called a transformer language. Now, if you've ever heard of chat box, and think about what I'm saying, chat GPT, that's a chat box. So if you ever heard of a chat box, it uses language called a transformer language. And it makes it easy for you to interact at a high level with AI. And that's what Chat GPT is. So what you just learned also is, what does Chat GPT stand for? Let's go backwards. Chat, we know, is a chat box. G is short for generative AI. The P part is short for pre-learning, large data sets, big data. And the T part is transformer language. So now you know the technical term and the pieces of what makes up Chat GPT. Okay. The next part that's kind of bundled into a lot of this AI stuff that's in the cake is neural networks. Now, neural networks translate what computers understand into what humans can understand. And in addition to that, to make it more simple, maybe everybody doesn't know, but computers only understand things like I's and O's and numbers. And it needs to translate that to words and pictures and audio that humans understand. So that's what neural networks do. It takes all those, again, If we go backwards, that pre-training that takes all those large data sets that's just numbers and stuff, and it turns it into communications and speech and language that we could understand as humans. That's what neural networks do. What neural networks also do is they create um, fill-ins for what you would call gray matter. So when you go throughout your day, there are a lot of things that you do without thinking about it that you have to literally train a computer to do, or the computer has to figure out what you're talking about. It's almost like taking an IQ test, which is all gray matter type of a test, right? You say something like, umbrella is to rain as apples and oranges are to fruit, or something else. All of those kinds of conversations and, you know, things like if you had a robot and it just walked out into the street, the robot doesn't know that the sound it's hearing is a truck. So it has to fill that in with the gray matter before it walks out into the street and gets hit. As humans, we know what that means. We don't have to figure that out. So we wouldn't step out into the street. So neural networks are all that special programming to get robots to think more human, okay, and act more human, and chat box to fool you and think you're typing with a human on the other end, okay? That's what neural networks do. Now, what I haven't read here is something that's called reinforcement learning and human feedback. This is where, as our society changes and jobs change, this is where you need to be involved in where AI needs humans the most. So, in other words, this reinforcement learning and human feedback, that's the place where humans are looking at this AI stuff as developers and programmers and architects and things, and they're saying that doesn't make any sense. Ain't no human would do that. And they're providing feedback to make the AI better. So, look, if you happen to be in a job and it's inevitable, it might be replaced by AI, get involved. Because when these things happen, you still need humans to be involved somewhere. So get involved in this reinforcement learning and human feedback if you can, but at least I'm trying to explain to you that there's still a big role in the human component to even create AI before it becomes self-learning, as I outlined in neural networks. Okay. Okay. In addition to what I listed here as pieces of the cake that make up AI, whenever you hear that word, there are many, many other things that I didn't list here. The list is just too long, but I just want you to understand that when you hear the term AI, you should be thinking about these things. Other models that are out there around AI are models like Claude. There's another one called Bard. Bard is owned by Google, Doll, GPT-4, et cetera. There are other models out there. And there are other components, like I said, involved in AI that I just didn't list here and get into it. But there are things like deep learning, meta reasoning, logic, fuzzy logic. All these things are baked into AI. So, what you should think about is whenever you're interacting with something that is calling itself AI, there's a lot of computer power, there's a lot of computing, there's a lot of logic, there's a lot of systems involved in presenting what you're interfacing with. It may be all or some of what I just outlined for you. Okay? Now, tell people about the show. It's About This Life show. Tell them to subscribe. You subscribe. Turn on the notifications. Comment where you can. Reach out to me if you want to. But if anybody wants to get to the show, just send them to www.aboutthislifeshow.com. It'll take them to the show and ask them to join. Pass the word on. All right. So now we get to this one. Should you fear AI? Like anything, right? You can take anything, soda, candy, riding a bike. There's good and bad with everything. So the good about generative AI is that it can pretty much improve anything that has a process, anything that could be programmed, anything that's going on in most companies around the world. If you use AI the right way, it could be really helpful, impactful, and be a serious game changer. Okay. But the bad part is It could also replace a lot of jobs. Okay. But again, what jobs it can replace and what level is like the example I gave you with autopilot. Is it your goal to get rid of pilots? Or is it your goal to make autopilot better with the new AI to protect the passengers and keep pilots engaged? I guarantee you in the future, there's going to be some airline out there that's going to try to replace the pilots altogether. And there'll be some airlines that will keep the pilots, and we'll see which model wins. Will customers feel safe with that? Right? We're already talking about using AI to get rid of Uber drivers, right? Just let the AI drive you around. If you got the GPS, the artificial intelligence, all of this stuff, do you need a driver in a taxi cab to get you from point A to point B if you have all this technology that can do it without a driver? Okay. So jobs can be replaced with AI. We just have to determine at what level we're trying to do it. So I'm going to give you a simple example that everybody is already aware of. Let's take digital artists. There are people out there who are great artists, and they went out on the internet, they got a website, they started their business, and people would go in and fill a form and say, could you create a picture for me of something like this? Well, today you can go to chat GPT and you can put in a description and it will create that picture in less than 30 seconds. So does that mean the digital artists should be worried about their future? Maybe. We'll find out. The other thing, like I started to say earlier, is these are other jobs here that can literally be replaced with AI. Like I said, truck drivers. There are already trucks on the road right now. You might see a driver behind the wheel when you see them on the highway, but in fact, the driver is not driving. They're already testing AI and autonomous driving on the highway with 18 wheelers. The only reason the driver is there is the same reason you have a pilot. Even though that truck is driving itself into the warehouse and all that stuff, it's on the road going coast to coast. It's doing all of that on its own with AI, and the driver is just there to be the monitoring pilot. You just don't know what's happening. Okay. In some cities in the US right now, they already have taxis that have no steering wheel and they're picking people up, and AI and autonomous driving is taking them there. Again, jobs that can be replaced. Architects. Let's think about it. You're an architect. You went to school all these years, you did all this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you have AI that has sucked in trillions of pages of architecture, can think out of the box because of generative AI and create new buildings, and it knows the guidelines for every area of the country in terms of what the standards are. Are we going to get rid of architects? And here's the ironic one: programmers. Programmers are doing all this work to create AI when the actual art of programming can be replaced by AI. So programmers may be sealing their own fate with what they're doing. Again, it depends on how far we're trying to go with AI. All right. So again, should I fear AI? This was in the newspaper. So today's date is February 3rd, 2024. And this was in the newspaper a couple of days ago. UPS, and believe me, it's not just UPS, it's happening all over the place. But this is one example. UPS is getting rid of 12,000 jobs. And there's this line, if you read in the article, it says, and the firm was investigating investing in artificial intelligence as it pushes to become more efficient. Efficient is also another way for less humans, more technology, robots, this kind of stuff, autonomous driving UPS trucks. It means replace if their goal is to replace. So this is why people fear AI. And in some cases, you should, because there are some jobs that will be completely replaced and they will disappear off the face of the earth. Okay. So, again, I'm going to give you a different type of example around should I fear AI? And this is another bad one. So, for example, an anesthesiologist today When you go into surgery, monitors the gauges on the screen about the patient during surgery, and they kind of administer the right amount of anesthesia during the operation. Now, I'm here to tell you that the right AI technology can replace that anesthesiologist. But see, the anesthesiologist right now and other people at that level, their thought is, and I'll show it you here. I am a highly paid college graduate from and I'm a professional. Only essential workers need to be worried about their jobs being taken by AI. That's not true because an anesthesiologist is looking at whatever is in that patient to put that data on the screen. If I replace that screen that the anesthesiologist is looking at with technology to do everything that that anesthesiologist is doing, I can do it and probably do it better because the anesthesiologist is looking at only a few things that we've decided over the years are good enough to know that the patient is okay. With big data sets, I could be monitoring 10 to 20 other things at the same time more efficiently with AI very easily. So, will we replace anesthesiologists or will we create AI to make their job even better and make it even better for the patient outcome, right? Because if we were to replace the anesthesiologist, that's a $370,000 to $485,000 job gone, right? What's the point of going to med school to become an anesthesiologist when you're competing against AI? So AI is not just people going into McDonald's using a kiosk and letting that kiosk add additional AI and move it to the machines to get rid of people behind the fast food counter. AI is also getting rid of these very high paid jobs too. So, like I said, AI can touch anything and everything at this point. It all depends on how far we want to go. So, here's the other part I want to bring up about AI that we have to think about. The still mostly ignored aspect of AI development is bias. And look, I'm just throwing it out there. Many of the development teams advancing these technologies have been absent of diversity, sex, culture, race, income levels, and they're creating impactful technologies that will really change the results of how we live, and it will create unfair technology. I mean, we already see that, right? Women say it all the time, right? You have a bunch of men at the top making decisions for what women need to be doing and things like that, right? And it becomes biased because a man is not a woman. Okay, you can't think 100% like a woman. You don't have the same body parts. So to sit in the ivory tower and make decisions about what you think a woman wants is going to create bias. Yeah, you might get some things right, but it's still going to create bias. It's the same thing when you have teams of people, all men that have no women, creating AI for how women want to be treated. Same thing if you have teams who have all white men, no Hispanics, no blacks making decisions about technology that's going to impact the black and Hispanic community. The bottom line is AI development without diversity opens the door to digital systemic bias. So we need to improve our school system so that everybody is getting a good education to participate in this type of stuff that's going on because right today it's just not happening. But I really do want to highlight AI development without diversity opens the door to digital systemic bias. You have to have different people creating technologies that's making these kinds of decisions, and it can't be based on all men, all black men, all white men making decisions for technologies that are going to be impacting an entire society. It has to be diverse. All right. The last thing I wanted to bring up here before I close this out with another slide is the following. We have some unbalanced priorities. So I did another show and I outlined how our education system is really not good. It's getting worse and worse. And again, if you live in a rich area, a great zip code, your education might be getting great. But everybody that's dependent on the Department of Education to provide public schools and things like that, it's not getting better. It's getting worse, and we can't compete as a country. So I put this here for you to understand and see this. Right now, the Department of Education budget, and these numbers float around, believe me, I've looked. Let's just say is $127 billion. Now, it's more than that when you start thinking about other things on the side, like scholarships and things like that for HBCUs and CHIP and STEM and other things. But the core budget, 127 billion. Right now, and planned for 2023, 2024, the federal government is going to be spending $204 billion on tech and AI development. And corporate America is exponentially spending more money than that on tech development and specifically AI development. So we're spending more money right now on developing technology to make computers smarter than humans, to put humans out of jobs, if we choose to go that far, then we're spending to make humans smarter and be able to create new types of businesses and technologies and opportunities. So these are unbalanced priorities. We got to work harder on better educating people in this country, period. And right now, that's not happening, and it's an unbalanced priority. So my last slide for you is I took a look at a number of sites, and I'm just going to whip through these, but I get it. Many people have used Chat GPT, and there are others. And I just wanted to list a few and tell you what they do, and maybe you can go try those out and play with them, okay? So first we have Chat GPT. We know what that is. Anybody out there that has Windows 11, you just got a really good update. Now it has something called Copilot built in. It's the same kind of AI that's built into Microsoft's website called Bing. Really good, try it out. Also on your Windows machine, there's something called Windows Paint. Now, if you've been a Windows user, I want, let's just say since 1981, for example, when the original PC came out, it came out with a free paint program, painting program called Paint. It was really basic. They just updated Paint, and you can now open Windows Paint. And if you click on this thing called Copilot or Creator at the top, you can just type in, create a picture of a monkey on a unicycle drinking a soda, and it will create that picture for you, similar to what you've seen in other AI applications on the web. That's now free in Windows Paint. So if you want to play with it a little bit, but you don't feel comfortable going to websites, if you have Windows, you can use Windows Copilot and you can use Windows Paint. So here's some other quick ones. Perplexity AI, similar to Chat GPT. Fireflies AI. That is basically an AI application that takes all of the meetings all the information that you may have collected out of meetings, meeting plans, online meetings, and it will build a meeting note plan for you in an automated way. VidNaz creates custom avatar videos. So if you need to do some kind of avatar video, you could use that by just popping in some text and you get an avatar video. Cast Magic IO turns your audio into ready to use content. So you can send some dictation in and it's going to create content from that to help you use it. Vondi AI is all sorts of stuff. If you go to Vondi AI, you're just going to see just a number of AI modules, so to speak, that do totally different things. Help you create resumes. You upload your speech, it'll fix your speech and add to it. It does all sorts of stuff. Okay. Now I'm putting this one in called undetectable AI. I'm putting that in there to make teachers aware that if that students are out there creating creating papers using AI, and they may not know it, right? So here's another tool that students may be using, and you have to figure out how to detect it. So undetectable is something that if you go to an AI site and you use it to write your business proposal, for example, or your student paper, undetectable will take that paper and make sure there are no hooks in it that will tell anyone that it was created using AI. So, in other words, if you have technology in the classroom and you run all your students' papers through it, and you can detect plagiarism and AI and things like that, undetectable is designed to remove those hooks so you can't detect that the paper was created using AI and the student didn't do anything. So you have to find a way and another tool to get around technology like undetectable. Okay. Then there's Gamma AI. It builds cool custom presentations and pitch decks that you're going to use. In Video IO, it turns your content into script and videos and things like that. Notion AI improves your writing, and Cast Magic. I think I already talked about Cast Magic. It turns your audio into a polished presentation. So there are at this point at least 50 other AI type engines out there that you can play with. But again, I wanted everybody to understand the basics. Now you know that AI is not a single thing, it's a collection of very, very costly and highly developed technologies. You can see the amount of money that the government is even spending now on AI, and what does that mean for government workers, right? Because you have to remember at the end of the day, any company that's spending money on AI to replace people is to put more money in the company pocket and executive pockets and such, right? Because if you have 400 people and you could use AI to replace 300, all of that savings goes to the company. And if you're wondering why companies would do that, it's because we as humans, we sometimes get sick. We take sick days, we go on vacation. That's what we do, right? If you're an AI engine and you're doing the work that somebody else used to do, you never go on vacation. You never get sick. Less money they have to pay out. You never go on holidays. That's what this is all about. So don't associate things with physical things, meaning I don't have to worry about this stuff because a physical robot can't do my job like you see in the auto industry where these big robots now build the cars. It's not like that now. AI is not just about robotics and making robotics smarter. AI is about replacing jobs. So as I said in my last um, show about people who are demanding to work from home, well, if your job and you demanded that your job be configured that you work from home, you're a perfect candidate for replacement with AI, right? So again, AI could be good, it could be bad. We just have to decide how far we want to go. So that's it for the show. Again, remind people it's the About This Life Show, www.aboutthislifeshow.com. And hopefully I'll see you at the next show. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed the show.